Okay, our next topic is graphing square roots. So everybody knows squares is kind of like a little bit of an arc. Okay, it's kind of like half a parabola on its side. So let's go through. I have two of these to show you today. So square root is the name of this one. The transformations, we're going to go left 2, down 4. Well, this one doesn't really have a vertex, so that left 2, down 4 is what I call a starting point. Okay, I don't know a better word for it, but I just go by starting point. So -2, -4. So I would go left 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now I know that's going to arc up, so I can visualize that it will cross the x and the y axis. So let's see, we've done the transformations, we've done the starting point, so let's do those x and y intercepts. So again, just like we did on quadratics, if you want to do an x-intercept, you have to plug in or substitute in 0 for the y, okay? So I'm going to solve my square root by adding over the 4. And then what undoes a square root is a square. So I got 16. Those two are going to cancel, so that is an x. It looks really bad. And if I subtract my 2, I would get 14 as x. So my x-intercept is going to be at 14, 0. That definitely looks like that's not going to fit on my screen, but that's okay. I now know where the exact x-intercept is. So I get next going to do my y-intercept. So y-intercept, you now put in 0 or substitute in 0 for the x. So I'm going to go 0 plus 2 minus 4. So this one I would grab a calculator, which I don't know what the answer to that is off the top of my head, so I'm going to type it in. So I'm getting a y of -2. Well, let's say -2.6. So I know it's going to cross there. So I'm going to go 1, 2, like halfway. So I know this thing is going to come and arch up here. I would not want to see it crossing the x-axis on this screen because 14 would be off my screen. Okay, so be careful of that. End behavior. Do you have a point on this end and do you have an arrow showing that it's going to continue to the right? Okay, domain and range. So one like this, sometimes this is helpful, like this starting point at -2, -4, keep in mind -2 is the x and -4 is the y. Well, that can help me because domain is the x's and range is the y's. So since I'm starting at -2 and I can see that's arcing, well, that didn't work out so well. It's arcing up this direction. I know it's going to, bracket -2 to infinity. My range is the y's, and my y value, I can see the lowest y is -4. So I'm going to go -4 to infinity. Okay, so I think we've done everything on this one. Got a little picture again. You can go over there to Desmos if you get stuck, and you can graph it on Desmos to double check. I do want to do a second one of these just to show you some weird stuff that can sometimes happen. So on this one, again, it's a square root. And our transformations, we can see here we're going to go right 1, and this guy is up 2. So that's going to be my starting point. So I'm going to start at 1, 2. So I'm going to go over 1, up 2. Well, I know the square root is going to go like an arc like that. So being that this is past the x-axis and the y-axis, probably not going to have x or y intercepts. So I want to show you what that might look like when you're solving. So let's do the x-intercept here. Again, substitute 0 in for y every single time. So I'm going to subtract that 2 over, and I'm going to square both sides, which if I do this, I'm going to get 5, right? Well, what happens, you think you're getting an answer, but if you go and check this, does 0 equal the square root of 5 minus 1 plus 2? Well, that's going to be a 4. The square root of 4 is 2. Does 2 plus 2? That's 4. Well, that does not equal 0, does it? That's an extraneous solution. And I can't spell extraneous. Anyway, extraneous. So when we were having those extraneous solutions last semester, this is what that means. It means it's not going to give you an x-intercept. So I would say no x-intercept in this case. So if you get something weird like that, I mean, you can logically reason out that it's not going to have an x-intercept because this thing is going to have to curve that direction. So it's not going to cross. Let's look at what happens when you try to find the y-intercept. Okay, so again, this time we have to plug in 0 here. Okay, so when you go to do this one, you're getting the square root of -1 plus 2. Well, the square root of -1 is imaginary. So when you try to find the y-intercept, you get imaginary solutions. So something like that, again, means there's no y-intercept. So when you get extraneous stuff or imaginary stuff, those are some incidences where you won't have actual points for those parts. Okay, end behavior, do you have a point here and an arrow here? We did the transformations, we did the starting point, so let's do domain and range. So domain, range. So your domain, let's see, if we put that point there, sometimes again like that will help. So your domain is starting at 1 on the x, remember x is 1, and we're heading to the right, so 1 to infinity. The range is starting at 2, and again, it's heading up to infinity. So that would be it for our square roots. So first one was very straightforward. It had answers, but keep in mind if you get weird stuff like these, it's okay. It should just logically make sense, though, on your graph why you don't have those as solutions.